The highly provocative, blasphemous remarks from Prophet Muhammad must be condemned by every individual irrespective of gender, nationality, religion and faith. For this concerns not just one religion. This is not limited to just one religion. This concerns the universal harmony and the human being as universally one unit. So why was this done? The intention needs to be judged. The intention needs to be analyzed. And what kind of message it is sending to the growing minds and the growing young adults by spreading hate? This is having a consequence and an impact on the growing minds that is observing religion and sending a kind of message to the young generation, the young growing adults. What impact is hate having on them? And the hate speech is inculcating certain kind of emotions and triggering certain kind of emotions within them. That is not good for their emotional well-being. Let's come to why did it happen and what was the intention behind doing this? What message is this sending to the young generation whose growing minds are being shaped up and getting subjected to the hate speech? Why was it done? How many of us knew the name of that person who deliberately triggered outrage, and after that nobody is now has become the eye of global political storm? The name that was unknown is today being googled by Arab foreign countries and the Gulf countries for having caused public outrage and hurting religious sentiments on purpose, and the impact that it will have on the generation. This is not limited to one religion. This involves a larger aspect that religions has on mind and a world devoid of religion. What kind of world will it be, and are we prepared to live in that kind of world, and the consequences that we have to pay if we begin to live in a world that is devoid of religion? Because the youngsters and the young generation are moving away and estranging from religions because of the hate that is being spread in the name of religion. These are the people at the cost of others, driven by their intense longing for faith, end up performing such cheap publicity stunts and end up exposing their unprincipled character. Now, one thing we have to understand and realize, that the unprincipled human being has nothing to do with any faith, religion or country. They do not represent anything. They represent their own selfish interest at the cost. They want to make benefit at the cost of others, at the expense of others. They have no love or no respect for their own religion, because something is for sure. If I am abusive towards somebody else's parents, I cannot claim to be respectful towards my own parents, and this is something the world has witnessed. But the impact that it is having on the young budding minds, the growing generation, the growing developing minds that are witnessing this kind of hate is shaping a world for us that will be devoid of religion, because young generation is moving away from religion. And the reason that is causing people from getting inclined towards the trends of getting delinked from the religion and getting estranged from religious beliefs is the hate and division that is being spread. Having spent most of my years in convent schools and convent colleges, I have got the opportunity to grow up with people of different religions and faiths. And believe me, they don't like hate. They like unity and they like happiness and the positive energy. Negative energy is something that is detesting and that disgusts human from the core human values. It is we humans, we are not inclined. We may get carried away by hate, but hate and negativity is something that adds no value to our life. What we all witnessed was appalling, because the kind of energy that was radiated was nothing but evil, gross, and it was simply unacceptable. And that energy what we radiate to the universe, that is exactly what we get back in the form of reflection. What we do is exactly that energy that the universe gives back to us, and it is the reflection of the action that we have performed. This is the concept of karma, the cycle of karma, the karma yogi concept in Hinduism, the reward and punishment concept in Christianity, and makafate amal in Islam, that says and teaches the young minds that whatever actions you do, that action comes back to you, because there is that universal law that gives you back whatever you do. And science says the energy that we radiate, that is the energy that the universe gives back to us. And this is what draws a line between crime and sin. anything and everything that is crime is punishable by law, but every sin need not be a crime. Now, if that difference and that line that has been drawn by the holy verses, the holy books and religion that draws the line between the sin and a crime, if that line begins to thin, that has already begun to thin, and if that line erases completely, then every street, every corner, every lane, every corner of the whole world needs to have a CCTV camera, a policeman in action, and alert eyes monitoring those CCTV cameras, making sure that they are technically performing all the time and they are noticing every action that is being committed in every corner of the world. Practically, is that possible? What about those offenses that doesn't come under crime, and what about those offenses that don't get reported? How do we get control over that? And every human being, before committing any action, will have in the mind that there is some power watching up from there, and we will have to pay the consequence, and there will be the outcome of the particular action that we do. That is the cycle of karma. That is the action of the deed that we conducted, the reward and the punishment of that particular deed. And that fear, that God-fearing nature, inculcating that God-fearing nature that the religion does, is something that prevents a person from committing any kind of wrongdoing. Are we really prepared for it? This is one question we need to ask ourselves. If you see a person dying out of hunger and I have that slice of bread which I choose to share, or I can eat it all by myself because I have a ownership on that bread, so the law will not punish me and it is not a crime as well. But here is a sinful act, and it is the fear of the punishment of the sin, that the Almighty there is watching my actions, and hence I choose to share my bread and save that person. This is what religion does. It inculcates the fear of God. Accidentally, you end up hitting an animal with your car, but it is not a hit and run case because it doesn't involve a human being, but it involves an animal. So you have left that animal to die and to suffer in pain, and you have run away, but you will have no case. This is what religion does. Here it draws the line. There is a fear that inculcates within us, and that is the fear of that God, that creator is watching, that what I am doing to his creation, and that will compel me to trying to be a good human being. But if this loses its value and the religious guidelines loses its value, then we will become free animals and we are ready to do anything that we want. There will be no moral consciousness, no rules, no regulations, no boundaries. Then we are not creating a safe atmosphere and a safe world for ourselves to live, because police cannot be present at every corner and every street and every lane. It is that police, that Almighty, under the watch of whom every human will perform the action, and keep in mind that the action will have a consequence. Have we analyzed human nature and human behavior? We get inclined towards something that has no rules and regulations because we are free birds by nature and we want freedom. So getting inclined towards spirituality, and spirituality is also worldwide being misinterpreted, especially by the young generation, in the name of liberation, in the name of free spirit, in the name of getting tattoos done, in the name of music. Spirituality has no discipline is what young generation thinks, but spirituality has a lot of discipline, and subsequently religion is losing its essence and value because it is being subjected to for debates, for causing division, for expressing their opinion, and difference of opinions being taken away, and it is being used in debating platforms and in conversations, and that's it. And then we keep the holy books in as a piece of decoration, as a piece, as a sign and a symbol of devotion. But how many of us truly follow those holy verses and imply those holy verses in our day-to-day lives exactly as it is given in our respective religion? How many of us do that? And if we are unable to do that, and practically it's not possible to follow exactly the strict guidelines, because every religion and religious books has very strict guidelines that, if exactly implied and followed, that can bring out the best version of you. But how many of us choose to do that? We can debate on it, we can do mudslinging in the name of that, but we will not imply it in our own lives. I'm speaking about the individual religion, whatever you believe in, how much we are truly following it and implying it in our day-to-day lives. The holy books that are in our shelves, how seldom do we take it out, in either yearly once or twice or thrice. There are certain religious ceremonies when we take out and read it. How many times in a week do we read it, and how much do we imply and applies those verses that we read in our day-to-day practical lives? If not, then who has given us the right to mudsling any other religion, or to blaspheme any other religion, or to point out fingers at any other religion? I will tell you what it does. It takes the kind of emotions and the intention that you have, and that is full of malice. When you research a certain kind of scripture or holy scripture or any religion with the intent of doing research and with the intent to find out and discover something, then that will churn out a different outcome. But when the intention of researching a particular holy book or a holy verse is spreading hate, malice, and to take out and find flaws and termite, then you're on a termite hunt. So if you're on a termite hunt, then you will find termite in anything and everything. And understand the difference between misinterpretation and intentional misinterpretation, because intentional misinterpretation is mispresenting facts and misquoting facts and presenting it in a way, in an abusive way, that will trigger the wrong kind of emotions and end up spreading hate and disharmony it will cause to the society and the human beings as a whole. We have to combat hate holistically. This is what we as human unit universally should do, and not get carried away by these kind of dishonest and malice people who do this kind of actions with personal agenda and self-interest and self-goals, and end up performing such kind of cheap publicity stunts. For holy verses are for us to make the best out of it and become best version of ourselves. But if you want to trigger controversy and if you want to find flaws, there is no religion that doesn't have certain verses or some things that are controversial in nature, that are slightly difficult for normal human being to understand. Lord Shri Krishna, when he married 16,000 wives, if somebody will research and if somebody does it with the intent of making fun and finding termites, then the person will say, see, he had 16,000 wives. But if a person reads the actual story, how 16,000 women's lives were saved, then they will express and present this fact by saying that 16,000 innocent lives were saved. Coming to Islam, Prophet Muhammad's marriage to a 9-year-old is always being talked about, but that at a very tender age, he got married to a lady double his age, and he fulfilled his duties towards that marriage and led a very happily married life. That will not be highlighted because the intention is to find termites. The intention is to find flaws. So what we are doing is sidelining all the good aspects of religion and just picking up points that we can debate on. In this way, we are harming the future of the youth. Let's ask ourselves one question: how many of us understands the difference between respecting your parents and loving your parents? Modernization and the era today teaches us that once you're grown up, you become friends to your parents. A daughter is a friend to the mother and the son is a friend to the father, so they can talk in the same pitch and they are on equals. Now they are equals and they can talk to each other like friends. But when friends talk, they can cross that line, and we end up crossing that line in the pretext of friendship. We end up being disrespectful towards our parents in the name of friendship, in the pretext of friendship, and in the pretext of modernization. The holy verses of Bible teaches, honor your mother and your father, for you may have a prolonged life in the land of Lord that God gives for you. Islam teaches, the holy verses of Quran teaches that you have to be gentle when you address and when you talk to your parents, and that they have the highest positions. And when it comes to mother and the father, the mother has the greatest position, and then comes the father. And your parents, you have to be respectful towards your parents, and if not, then this is a offense, this is a punishable act, and this is a great sin, and it will be punished not by the man-made law, and it will be punished by that Almighty's law. In Hinduism, Ramayana tells about Lord Ram's sacrifice that he made to save and in the honor to keep the words and the promise of his father. It tells us about Shravan Kumar, idle son, who lifted the weight of both his parents and took them to religious pilgrimage. Now you have to understand that if these are the examples, if these don't become the role models, if the holy verses are not being taught to children and they don't get to know the value and the essence of holy verses, then they will get carried away and consumed in self-interest, because modernization is about self-interest. self-interest, and it has nothing to do with good deeds. As long as the law and the legal institutions don't say something that okay, this is not illegal and this is legal, they will do everything that is legal, and everything that is legal that need not be morally right. Hence, I conclude this devastating episode what we witnessed in digital platform. The takeaway lessons is, if we want to make a debate unhealthy, it doesn't need a controversial subject, but it needs filthy controversial minds.